Hey guys, welcome back for another Jedi Journal entry. Today I'm going to talk about the advances in technology between the prequel trilogy and the original trilogy, and why they are styled differently. One thing I remember as a kid was noticing how Star Wars ships and technology seem to be sleeker in the prequel trilogy than in the original trilogy. The ships don't look as rough and worn out, kind of taking away from the lived-in aesthetic that George wanted to really emphasize while making the original trilogy. And it always struck me as odd that the technology in Star Wars could be better in the past than in the future. You get a sense of this disparity when you compare a hunk of junk like the Millennium Falcon, as it constantly breaks down, to a Naboo starfighter that spins really well. Even the X, Y, and A wings, while certainly not buckets of bolts like the Falcon, look much rougher on the exterior than a Jedi Interceptor. I kept thinking about it over the years, and it just didn't make sense that technology could degrade over the years when it is set in such an advanced fictional setting, even if it says a long time ago. The shortest and most obvious explanation would be that movie-making technology was not as good as it is now. But I'm going to go a little deeper than that. I later came to the conclusion that this disparity was because of the differences in location and what characters were involved. The original trilogy, for example, takes place with your everyday Joes and ragtag patriots fighting with what they've got against the Empire. Not everyone has nice, expensive stuff to bring with them to the rebellion, nor to purchase on the rebellion's behalf. And so the ships look a little worse for wear and lived in, where you can see the lines where the plates have been riveted together, rust lines from old metal, and even equipment malfunctions like on the Falcon. My personal favorite little unnoticed moment in all of Star Wars takes place in Empire, when Han tries to start the Falcon but has to bang the wall to turn the ship back on. Some of you may have noticed that all of my recent videos start with that particular clip, and that's because it's, my favorite little moment. But in the prequel trilogy, things look smoother and cleaner. That's because in the prequel trilogy, the story revolves around the economic/political center of the galaxy. People here are royalty, or are wealthy and powerful. It makes sense why things are clean and well made. There are probably more cleaning droids in the Senate building on Coruscant than people. We even see some window repair droids outside Padme's apartment in Attack of the Clones after Obi-Wan had jumped through it at the beginning of the movie. The huge number of droids would be relatively inexpensive compared to having a cleaning staff, and they'd be able to use their advanced scanners to make sure everything was always spotless. They could always work 24/7, seeing as they don't need food, housing, or breaks as well. The Jedi also have good technology because they have become an operative arm of the Republic. They're not just peacekeepers, but have become like federal marshals or 00 agents, and eventually they become soldiers for the Republic, deviating from their mandate to serve the Force and not become spoiled by the corruption of politics. This plays into the Jedi Order's own corruption and thus blindness, which I have talked about in other videos, that eventually would lead them to their downfall. So anyway, the point is that the Jedi are well funded and can get access to the good stuff. In the original trilogy, the Empire switched their approach to cheaper, mass-produced things. Not saying TIE fighters are junk, because they really aren't, but they don't have a lot of the bells and whistles on them that other ships, even the Rebellion, might have. The Empire favors instead a large number of less expensive ships to supply the manpower needed to rule a galaxy. As an example, TIE fighters don't have hyperdrives or life support systems on board, hence why their pilots wear those helmets with the oxygen supply tubes sticking out of them. At the ruins of Alderaan, Obi-Wan even remarks that a TIE fighter couldn't get this far into space all by itself, contrasting with Luke's X-Wing, which he takes on long road trips from Hoth to Dagobah to Bespin. They also do not have shields, unlike A-Wings, X-Wings, Y-Wings, etc. It's sort of like using a car with no air conditioning, radio, or speakers, but is instead designed to be driven, and not for luxury or comfort. That, in combination with the Empire considering their forces to be expendable, means they don't feel the need to equip them with all of the best gear. But if you look around the setting of the prequel trilogy, you will get an eyeful of the more run-down technology in Star Wars. But you'll notice it's not on places like Naboo, it's on Tatooine, where there are junk shops and pod racers that blast out big exhaust fumes. You won't see it on a planet like Coruscant, except for scenes where we leave the wealthy or political areas to head to the industrial districts or the lower levels with the old diners and dirty alleys like the trash-littered one where Anakin and Obi-Wan interrogated the bounty hunter Zam Wesell. So seeing as all of the technology in the prequel trilogy isn't highly refined or stylized, it shows that it is more about where that technology comes from and who owns it that determines its quality. The affluent parts of the galaxy, the rich, the politicians, all have nicer things than your everyday people in the galaxy far, far away. The technology was never the focus for Star Wars, though, in perspective. It's not really science fiction, but it's more like a fantasy soap opera or a spaghetti western, just with laser swords instead of steel. So the focus should never be on the technology the way a lot of science fiction movies are, or as characters like Batman and Iron Man who are constantly upgrading their equipment and getting new state-of-the-art advanced technology. This universe is a bit more like The Lord of the Rings, where the technology is sort of stuck in a certain period. The technology isn't the focus so much as it is a backdrop, or just part of the setting. George Lucas himself even said that he wasn't as interested in the technology and the spaceships as much as he was in the people and the way that they live and interact with that setting. Well, this concludes my exploration on technological differences between the prequel trilogy and the original trilogy. If you enjoyed what I had to say, click the like button down below, subscribe for more of my content, which should be coming soon. If you want to receive notifications of when that will be, hit the little bell icon down below as well so you won't miss the next one. Thanks for sticking around, and I'll see you all next time. May the Force be with you.